Hey Kayla, Miss Aselson here. So I'm not at school today, so instead you get a video notes, and today we're going to be working on adding and subtracting fractions. So in order to be able to complete this video notes, you need to have a separate sheet of paper, so an actual piece of paper, and you're going to be writing down the same problems that I have on here. So so you can pause right now, grab another piece of paper, and when I'm writing on these notes, I would like you to be doing the same on your separate sheet of paper. So when you add and subtract fractions, the first thing that you have to make sure is that the denominator or the bottom number is the same. So this will be your steps when you're adding and subtracting fractions. So the first thing you want to do is check to make sure that the denominator or the bottom number is the same on both your fractions. If it is the same, then you're just going to add or subtract just the numerator, and that's your top number. The denominator stays the same, okay? So when I have 1/4 plus 1/4, okay, I'm going to rewrite that, and I would like you to do the same if your homework, actually when I'm looking at your homework is top and bottom, so you should be okay. But if they're a fraction like that, I would like you to rewrite it like I'm doing right here. So 1/4 plus 1/4, okay? When I have a 4 at the bottom on both of them, if they're both a 4, which I do see that they are, then my bottom number for my answer can just be a 4. So I'm just going to bring that 4, though that does not change at all. So I'm just going to bring that 4. And then I'm just going to look at my numerators. So I have a 1 and a 1, and I'm going to add those together. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So I have 2/4 right there. When I look at 2/4, I know that they both are an even number, so they can be divided by 2. So I'm going to divide this top number by 2, and I'm also going to divide this bottom number by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and then 4 divided by 2 is 2. So my final answer should be in the reduced 1/2. But really what that 1/2 means, 2/4 is the exact same thing as 1/2. Okay, we just reduced it. So let's look at this next one. I have 1/6 plus 4/6. So I'm going to rewrite that. I'm going to say 1/6 plus 4/6 equals, and then I have something that is going to equal 2. Okay, when I'm looking, I see that I have a 6 right here, and I also have a 6 right here. Because both of those are a 6, I can just go ahead and rewrite my 6 right there. Okay, now I'm going to look at my top numbers, and I have a 4 and I have a 1. And notice that I'm adding in the middle. So 4 plus 1 is 5. When I think of 5 and 6, there's nothing that will go into both the 5 and the 6. So 5/6 will just be your final answer. I can't divide those two by anything that would reduce them. They're as small as they're going to get. Okay, so let's look at our last one on this page. So I have 5/8 plus 2/8. So I'm going to rewrite that. 5/8 plus 2/8. Okay, and that's going to be equal to something. Okay, so my first step is always looking. Do I have an 8 here and an 8 here? If the answer is yes, then I can go ahead and just write an 8 on the bottom there. Remember, that bottom number, that denominator, does not change. Okay, after I've looked at that one, I'm going to go ahead and look at the top. I have a 5 here and a 2 here. Remember, we're just going to add those straight across. So 5 plus 2 is 7. Okay, so my fraction turned into 7/8. When I think of a 7 and an 8, neither of them can be divided by anything other than 1. So because they can't be divided by anything other than 1, that's just going to be my final answer. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite 5/9, 5/9, and now we're subtracting. Notice I have a minus in the middle, and then 1/9. Okay, so first step always is look, are the denominators the same? I have a 9 and a 9, so the answer is yes. So then I can just go ahead and write my 9 on the bottom. Okay, then I'm going to look at my numerator, and I have a 5 minus a 1. And notice it's minus in the middle. So 5 minus 1 is 4. So I'm going to put a 4 on the top. So now I have 4/9. Okay, when I think of 4, that's an even number. When I look at 9, that's an odd number. So I know I cannot divide the 4 and the 9 by anything to reduce it. So my final answer will just be that 4/9. Okay, the next one, if I were to rewrite that, I have 8/10 minus 5/10. Okay, just like the ones before it. First thing I'm going to do is look at my denominator. I have a 10 and a 10. Well, as long as they're the same, I can just go ahead and write my 10 on the bottom. Okay, then I'm going to take my top number and I have 8, and again it's subtracting, so 8 minus 5. 8 minus 5 is 3. Okay, kind of just like the problem before this one, 3 is an odd number and 10 is an even number. So you can't really, there's nothing that will divide an odd and an even number, so I know right away that's going to be my final answer. I don't have to reduce that one anymore. Okay, so up until this point, we've only added and subtracted fractions that have the same denominator or the same bottom number. And we can add and subtract as long as they do have the same bottom number. If they don't, we have to change them in order to have them have the same bottom number. Okay, so in order to do that, you're going to first find your least common multiple of each denominator, and then you're going to multiply the numerator, which is the top number, and the denominator, which is the bottom number, by that number. And then you're going to just add and subtract like you did before. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of those. Okay, and this you're going to most definitely want to have a calculator handy. So if you don't have one handy yet, pull your phone out, pull your iPad out, and use a calculator on there. It doesn't matter what you use as long as you have a calculator so you're able to find the multiples. Okay, so I'm going to start by rewriting just like I was rewriting before. So I have 1/3 plus 9/10. Okay, so just like before, we're going to look at our bottom number. So I have a 3 and a 10. Well, I know that those are different numbers. So if they are different numbers, then I'm going to go over to the right-hand side of the paper and see how where I have the word multiples. I'll highlight that for you. So see where it says multiples over here? And you can't even really see that. How about this one? That one's a little bit better. Okay, so with those multiples, first we're going to find the multiples of the smallest one, the smallest denominator, and see, is that bigger denominator in this or not? Okay, so first I'm going to find the multiples of 3. So I'm just going to put 3 on the top here, and then I'm going to say 1 times 3 equals 3, and then I'm going to go with my 2, and I always go in order. 2 times 3 equals 6, 3 times 3 equals 9, 4 times 3 equals, 12, 5 times 3 equals 15, and 6 times 3 equals 18. And let's go one more. 7 times 3 equals 21. Okay, so I'm going to draw a line right here. So I'm already up to 21. And now I'm going to look at that 10. So now I have to find the multiples of 10. So I'm going to start my 10 here and start again with 1. 1 times 10 equals 10. 2 times 10 equals 20. 3 times 10 equals 30. Okay, looking at those, notice I stopped at 21 in my 3 column. And I'm already up to 30 on my 10 column. Well, let's see if we can get our 3 column up to that 30 number. Okay, they have to be the same. So I'm going to say 8 times 3 equals 24. 9 times 3 equals 27. We're almost there. 10 times 3 equals 30. Okay, so now I see I have a 30 under my 3's column, and I also have a 30 under my 10's column. So I'm just going to highlight those. So this is going to be my least common multiple here, and it's going to be my least common multiple here. Well, now I know what that least common multiple is. I have to multiply the top and the bottom to make them each a 30. Okay, so to get the 3 to be a 30, I need to multiply the bottom by 10. And if I multiply the bottom by 10, I multiply the top by 10. Okay, so that I'm just going to bring that down. That new fraction, 1 times 10 is 10. And 3 times 10 is 30. So now I have 10 30s. plus, okay, so now we want to get this next fraction, the 9/10, into 30s as well. I want that bottom number to be a 30. Well, if I look at my multiples of 10, I see 3 times 10 is 30. So that means I'm going to multiply this side by 3 and this side by 3. Okay, so 9 times 3 is 27. And then 10 times 3 is that 30. Okay, so now I'm just going to go just like I did before. I'm going to look and see what is my bottom number. So I have a 30 here and I have a 30 here. Well, as long as they're both the same, I can go ahead and add, oops, that's the wrong pen. Okay, I can go ahead and add knowing that this is also going to be a 30 on the bottom. Remember, you don't change that bottom number, that stays the same. And then that 10 and plus 27, we're just going to add straight across. So 10 plus 27 is 37. Okay, so here's where it gets a little bit tricky. When you have a bigger number on the top than you do on the bottom, there's going to be extra left. So then you have to go ahead and divide, or you have to think, how many 30s can I get into 37? Actually, I think this will be a lot easier way to think about it. How many 30s, how many of that bottom number can you get into that top number? Well, I know that there's one whole 30 in 37. So my whole number is going to be a 30. And if I take that 37 and I subtract 30 from it, I have 7 left. And then my bottom number is still going to remain that 30. So this 37 thirtieths is equal to 1 7 thirtieths if we want to change it so it's not an improper fraction. It's going to be 1 7 thirtieths. I definitely want you to be able to get to this part. If you struggle to get to this part, that's fine. You can just leave it at the 37 thirtieths, and then I can work on the simplifying that after. If so, you can leave it as an improper fraction. Improper means it's higher on the top than it is on the bottom. And then we can, so if you want to leave it that way, if you're not understanding the process to get it into a whole number and a fraction, then we'll work on that the next time we're together. Okay, so let's at 4 6 and 2 tenths. So I'm going to rewrite those 4 over 6 plus 2 over 10. Okay, when I look, those bottom numbers are most definitely not the same. So I have a 10 and I have a 6. So that means I need to go and I need to find the multiples. So I'm going to start with my smaller number. So my 6's, I'm going to say 1 times 6 equals 6. 2 times 6 equals 12. 3 times 6 equals 18. 4 times 6 equals 24. 5 times 6 equals 30. Okay, and I know if I go up by tens, those are pretty easy, right? Because you're just counting by 10. So 1 times 10 equals 10. 2 times 10 equals 20. And then 3 times 10 equals 30. And you might be able to do some of this in your head. You might not have to write them all down. I find it helpful to write them all down. So I just found the least common multiple. I have a 30 here, and I also have a 30 here. So now it's just a matter of changing our original fractions to make them all have 30. Well, this 6, so I'm going in my 6th column, and I see I need to multiply 6 by a 5 to get to that 30. So I'm going to say times 5 here, and whatever I do on top, I got to do the bottom. Whatever I do to the bottom, I got to do the top. So if it's the same or if it's a fraction, you got to multiply the top and the bottom. So 4 times 5 is 20, and then 6 times 5 is 30. Plus, okay, so now I have a 10, so I'm going to go in my 10, my multiple's a 10, and I see I multiplied 10 by 3 to get to 30. So I'm going to say times 3 here, and if I times 3 there, I got a times 3 here. So 2 times 3 is 6, and then 10 times 3 is 30. Okay, so now that my bottom numbers are the same, I'm going to look. I have a 30 here, and I have a 30 here. Okay, so as long as they're both a 30, then I can go ahead and put a 30 right there. Okay, and then I'm going to add 20 plus 6. That's going to equal 26. Okay, so when I look at 26 thirtieths, I see that they're both even numbers, so I can divide both of them by 2. So 26 divided by 2, and then 30 divided by 2. So remember, whatever you do to the top, you got to do the bottom. So 26 divided by 2 is 13, and 30 divided by 2 is 15. So that can't get any smaller, so my final answer will be 13/15. Okay, so this next one, I have 1/12 plus 5/7. Okay, obviously they have different denominators. So now I'm going to take my smaller of the two denominators, which is my 7, and I'm going to find all the multiples. So I'm going to say 1 times 7 equals 7, 2 times 7 equals 14, 3 times 7 equals 21, 4 times 7 equals 28, 5 times 7 equals 35, 6 times 7 equals 42, 7 times 7 equals 49. I'm going to stop right there, okay, and see how many 12s. I noticed that I went 7, 14, so I skipped right over 12. So that means I have to find my multiples of 12. Okay, so 1 times 12 equals 12. 2 times 12 equals 24. Okay, when I'm looking at my 7, my multiples of 7, I don't have a 24, so I gotta keep going. 3 times 12 equals 36. There's nothing there. 4 times 12 equals 48. Still nothing there. 5 times 12 equals 60. Okay, well now I'm only at 49 with my 7, so now I got to keep going with my 7s. So I'm going to say 8 times 7 equals 56. 9 times 7 equals 63. And 10 times 7 equals 70. So let's see what we can get there. So now we need, where are we at? 5 times 12. So now we need 6 times 12. 72. Let's do 7 times 12 equals, gotta get my calculator out, 84. Okay, let's do 11 times 7 equals 77. And now we're at 12 times 7 equals 84. Okay, so that took a long time to find those, but we found them. Okay, so I have an 84 right here. I also have an 84 right here. So I'm looking at I'm going to look at my 12 first. So I'm looking at my multiples of 12, and I see that 7 times 12 is 84. So I want to bring both the denominators to 84. So I'm going to multiply this by 7, and I'm going to multiply this by 7. Remember, whatever you do to the top, you got to do to the bottom. Whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So I have 7 over 84 for that one. Okay, now I'm going to look at my multiples of 7, and I see 12 times 7. So I had to multiply 12 times 7 to get to 84. So I'm going to say times 12 and times 12. Okay, and we're adding in the middle. 5 times 12 is 60, and 7 times 12 is 84. Okay, so now that we have these bottom numbers are both in 84. Whoops, I changed color by accident. Those are both in 84. I can go ahead and write an 84 right there. And then 7 plus 60 is 67. Well, I know nothing will go into both 67 and 84, so I'm just going to leave that as my final answer. Okay, this next one, we have 2/12 plus 5/7. Okay. Well, on the last slide, we already decided that 12 and 7 both have 84 in common. And to get that 84, we multiplied the 12 by 7, and whatever we do to the top, got to do the bottom, bottom and top. And whatever we multiplied this side by was 12. Okay, so 2 times 7 is 14. If you remember from the slide before, this is going to be an 84 plus 5 times 12 is 60, and this is going to be an 84. 7 times 12 is 84. Okay, when I look, those bottom numbers are the same. Okay, I have 84 here and I have an 84 here. So as long as those are the same, I can go ahead and write an 84 right there. Okay, and then 60 plus 14 is going to give me 74. Well, I know 74 and 84, they both are even numbers, okay, because they end in that 4. So 74, so because they're even numbers, I'm going to divide it by 2 here and divide by 2 here. So 74 divided by 2 is 37, and then 84 divided by 2 is 42. Okay, I have an odd number on the top and an even number on the bottom. So that is it for that one. Okay, we're going to switch gears here to subtracting. So we did a whole lot of adding, and now we're going to do subtracting, which follows the exact same process. Instead of adding, we're just going to subtract. So I have 3/8 minus 3/12. Okay, well, my first step is to look at the bottom numbers. I have an 8 and a 12. Those are not the same. So I'm going to start with 8, and I'm going to find all the multiples of 8. So I know 1 times 8 is 8. 2 times 8 is 16. 3 times 8 is 24. 4 times 8 is 32. And 5 times 8 equals 40. Okay, I'm going to stop right there for right now, and I'm going to do my 12s and see, do I find a 8, 16, 24, 32, or 40? If not, I have to keep going. If I find one, I can just stop. Okay, so I'm going to start with 1 times 12 equals 12. 2 times 12 equals 24. 3 times 12 equals 36. Okay, so I don't have to go any further because I've already found my least common multiple. I have a 24 right here in my 8 column, and I also have a 24 right here in my 12 column. So the least common multiple for both of those will be that 24. Okay, so in my 8 column, I'm multiplying 8 by 3. So I'm going to multiply this side by 3 and this by 3. Remember, whatever you do to the top, you got to do to the bottom. Whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So it's 3 times 3 is 9. That one's kind of hard to read in this. Let's try red. 3 times 3 is 9. And then 8 times 3 is that 24 that we just found. I'm going to subtract, okay? So 24 under my 12s column, I'm multiplying by 2. So 3 times 2 and 12 times 2. So 3 times 2 is 6, and 12 times 2 is that 24, okay? Well, because I'm adding and subtracting, because the bottoms are both a 24, I can just go ahead and carry out my 24 right here. Okay, and then 9 minus 6 is 3. So I have 3 over 24. And I know I can divide both of those by 3. So I'm going to divide this by 3 and divide this by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 24 divided by 3 is 8. So this will be your final answer. Okay, this next slide has a little bit of a typo. It says 5/5. Well, we're going to change that to, whoops, let me change my pen here. We're going to change that to 5/6. Okay, because 5/5 would be one whole, and we're not working on that today. So I'm going to say 5/6 minus 2/3. Figure out what that equals. Okay, I'm looking at my denominators. They're different. So I'm going to start with my smallest number, which is my 3. I'm going to find all the multiples of 3. So I have 1 times 3 equals 3. 2 times 3 equals 6. Well, I can stop right there because notice your 5/6, your 6 is already a 6, right? So we only have to change that 2/3. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply the top and the bottom by 2 because I know 2 times 3 is 6. So I'm going to multiply 2 times 2 and 3 times 2. Okay, so the 5/6 does not change because it's already a 6. Minus 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 2 is 6. So 5 minus 4, well, let's start again. Because you have both 6's on the bottom, I can do a 6 right here. 5 minus 4 is 1. And I can't reduce 1 6 at all, so that's just going to be my final answer. Okay, this next one, I have 3/4 minus 8/12. Okay, I'm noticing right away the denominators are not the same, so I'm finding multiples. I'm going to start with my smallest one, which is my 4. So 1 times 4 equals 4. 2 times 4 equals 8. 3 times 4 equals 12. And right there I see I have a 12. And my denominator for my 8/12 is a 12, so I can just stop right there. So I know I'm multiplying that 4 by a 3 to get that 12. So I'm going to say times 3 here. If I do that to the bottom, I have to do that to the top. Okay, so 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 3 is 12. Minus my 8/12 is just going to stay 8/12. Okay, I'm looking at 12s both on the bottom, so I can put a 12 right here. 9 minus 8 is 1. I can't reduce 1/12 at all, so that's going to be my final answer. Okay, this one I have 4/8 minus 2/12. Okay, the bottom numbers or the denominators are different, so I'm going to say find my smallest denominator, which is 8, and I'm going to find all the multiples of 8. 1 times 8 equals 8. 2 times 8 equals 16. 3 times 8 equals 24. And 4 times 8 equals 32. I'm going to stop there and see if I can get 12 to get to either that 8, 16, 24, or 32. Okay, so I'm going to start with my 12. And remember, I want my least one, so as soon as I hit it, I'm going to just stop. I'm going to say 1 times 12 equals 12. 2 times 12 equals 24. Well, right away, I recognize I already have a 24. So my least common multiple, I have a 24 right here, and I have a 24 right there. Okay, so I'm going to go back. What am I multiplying my 8 by to get to that 24? Well, it was a 3. So now I'm going to multiply this by 3, and if I multiply that by 3, I have to multiply this by 3. Okay, so 4 times 3 is 12, and my new number is going to be can I make that into 2? Yeah, 24. Okay, so I'm going to look at my 2/12. Okay, what am I multiplying that 12 by? Well, 2 times 12 is 24, so now I have to multiply both top and bottom by 2. I'm subtracting, so 2 times 2 is 4. And 2 times 12 is 24. Okay, so I'm looking, are my denominators the same? If they are, I can just write a 24. And then 12 minus 4 is going to be an 8. Okay, when I look at those are both even, and I know a 2 will go in there, but I also know a 4 will go in there, and I also know an 8 will go in there. So I'm going to divide this by 8 and divide this by 8. So 8 divided by 8 is 1, and 24 divided by 8 is a 3. So this is the last of your notes video for you today. So what I would like you to do is to, on your homework, you need to, so you have a subtraction or an addition sheet and a subtraction sheet. On the addition side, I want you to do 1B, 2B, 3B, 4B, 5B, and 6B. And on the subtraction side, I want you to do the same. 1B, 2B, 3B, 4B, 5B, and 6B. So those are all on your right column. You're going to need a separate sheet of paper in order to do these. So you're going to have you can either use Notability, or if you want to just use actual paper, that would be fine too, as long as you have it available for me to see. So go ahead and finish this up, and then you can just hold on to it. I don't have like a submission, but actually, why don't you take a picture? If you can send it back to me via Schoology, do that. If not, take a picture of it and plop it in that way. Or if you want to just show it to me next week, that would be fine too. So just make sure that you do the whole right column on a separate sheet of paper of the addition and the subtraction. So 1B to 6B on both the addition and subtraction side. I will not be available to answer questions for you today, so if you have some, just do the best you can today, and then if you have questions on any of it, or if it doesn't quite look right when I look at it next week, we'll go through it next week.